Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we are looking at one of my most recent purchases, and that is the Montana Knife Company Mini Speedgoat. Now, um, at the time of recording, these are still in stock, at least with one of the Paracord options. Um, though if you're familiar with Montana Knife Company, they drop knives in batches. So at the time you're watching, this may or not still be in stock. But as you can see, mine looks a little bit different from the image in the thumbnail, and we'll get to why that is in a minute. But I'm going to start off with the price on this one, which is $200, though I paid a little less than that, as they offer a 10% discount for military and first responders. And what you get for that price is a 3-inch blade of either 52-100 ball bearing steel or Magnacut, and mine is the Magnacut version. There's no difference in price between the options, so for me, Magnacut was the easy choice because I definitely prefer stainless steels. Um, the blade stock is definitely on the thin side, as you can see, which makes this a very, very slicey blade. Um, I will get into the difference from the thumbnail. The knife comes with a paracord wrapped handle, as you probably saw in the thumbnail. They offer different colors, but paracord is the only option for the handle if you are buying from Montana Knife Company. That is honestly something that kept me from buying the knife. For a while, as I've just never been a fan of paracord wraps, both from an Ergos perspective and just an aesthetics perspective. I don't like the look of it usually. So enter Inflection Engineering and Design, which is the company that made these scales. Their link is in the description, so if you'd like to check them out, you can go over there. But right now, these are the only scales that I can find being made commercially. I've seen some people comment in Reddit or in forums that they will make them for the knife, but that seems to just kind of be like a one-off, or like if you contact them directly through that forum or the subreddit kind of deal. But Inflection Engineering and Design are the only ones that I've seen being made like publicly for it. The scales are made of nylon 12 and are available in black, orange, and green. I am not a materials expert, but just from what I was able to look up and read on the internet, compared to G10, nylon 12 is lighter, cheaper, a bit easier to machine, and also a bit less rigid than G10. Overall, I don't have any complaints about the material. It seems to be just as impervious to the things that G10 would be. So it seems like it's a decent option. The one knock on the scales I do have, and I'll try to get a good image of it here. It's hard to see on that side. Okay, on this side you can see it where it's not completely lined up with the contouring of the knife. No matter how much I adjusted it, kind of moved it, it just would not line up completely on both sides. This one isn't as bad, but you can see on this side it doesn't line up perfectly with the contour of the knife, which it bugs me a little bit. But I mean, in practice, it doesn't affect the grip or anything like that. So, I mean, I really can't complain too much about it. That's honestly just me being a little bit picky about the aesthetics of it. But again, doesn't affect the function of the knife at all. Um, and that's the thing is, I can get past that because it does make the knife for me just much easier to carry and use. So, talking about the Ergos, with the original paracord wrap, I would say that the Ergos were passable. They weren't great. With these scales, I would say that it moves it into great territory. And one thing I do want to give credit on the paracord wraps. It was a very good paracord wrap. Like it was very tight, very well done. So if you like paracord wraps, I think you'll like that. I'm just, as I said, not a fan of the paracord wraps in general. Um, with the scales, you can see I can get a full 4-finger grip. I'm not really worried about falling off on the end there, which for me, an EDC fixed blade almost has to have a 4-finger grip for me to really even consider it. But yeah, very comfortable for me. Really like it a lot. There's no palm swells or anything like that, but again, that's not a big deal. I find it to be extremely comfortable holding it like that. Um, There's no jimping on the back of the blade at any point, but I mean, this is very, very thin blade stock, so that really doesn't bother me at all. If anything, like, maybe a little bit here would have been nice, but for what it is, I really don't have an issue with it not having that jimping. So from the knife onto the sheath, what we have here is a pancake style sheath. And I was kind of a little bit surprised they didn't go with a taco style, just, because with it being an extremely lightweight knife, and just, seeming to go on as much as they could for weight savings. I really thought that would have made a little bit more sense. But it did come with, sorry, digging through my drawer and I can't find it. But I'll show a picture of it here in a minute. I'll add it to the video. But it comes with a Montana Knife Company branded discrete carry Kansept mod 4 clip. So if you're not familiar with those, like I said, I'll bring it up here in a second. But as you can see, I swapped that out for an Ulti clip here. And nothing wrong with the original clip. The discrete carry Kansept clips are very, very popular. I just prefer the extra security of an Ulti clip. It just holds a little bit tighter, and I just prefer it over the discrete carry Kansept. The slots and the grommets, or whatever you want to call these, in the sheath give you plenty of options. You could do soft loops if you wanted to, just a lot of options. But overall, I'm really a fan of the sheath. The one slight knock that I have on it, and I will try to get it where you can hear it. So plenty of retention, no issues there. But when you shake it, and I'm not sure if you can hear the rattle there, so I'm going to bring it up on my microphone. You can hear it definitely rattles a bit. And it did not do that when it had the paracord wrap. So what I think was going on, the paracord wrap, went all the way up into here. So I think the paracord wrap, you can see there's a little bit of movement in the knife like that. I think the paracord wrap just kind of padded that in, so it prevented it from moving around and making that rattle. Now, like I said, no issues with retention in the holster. I would not be worried about that at all. But the rattle doesn't bother me as an EDC knife because I'm not trying to be as quiet as I can possibly be with it. But if you are using it for hunting or something like that, that rattle may be a deal breaker for you. So just kind of consider that when you're looking at it. One thing I do want to note is that they do sell extra Kydex sheaths on their site, and they're only $25, which I thought is actually a really good deal. I've bought several custom or aftermarket Kydex holsters for some knives that I own because I'm not a huge fan of leather holster or sheaths, most of the time. And usually those run me in the $40 to $60 range. So being able to get a good Kydex sheath for $25 straight from them, I think is a pretty good deal. They do also have leather sheaths. Those do run over twice the price of the Kydex, though, so that's just something to keep in mind if you do prefer leather sheaths. So with the whole package, as far as carrying goes, I have to say that this thing is an absolute dream to carry. This may actually be the lightest knife that I own. With the Ulti clip, I have this set up for pocket carry, and it's light enough that I forget that it's even there sometimes. And just to give you an idea of what it looks like in the pocket, I have a cutout of some jeans here. So there we go. So Ulti clip, pop that open, still a little bit tight, and get it in there, and then clamp it down. So that is what you would have sticking out of your pocket. And you could, this is probably about as deep as it will go. You could probably move it down a little bit if you wanted more of it sticking out, but because of the design of the sheath here, I don't think this is going to go any higher. But I think it looks great. Carries really well like that for me, but that just kind of gives you an idea what it looks like. And those ulti clips definitely hold very tight. Let me pop that off there. Okay. So we'll get it back out here. As I mentioned, you can also set this up with belt loops using these. But I think for me, pocket carry is absolutely where it's going to be because it is such a light knife. As far as build quality, with this being a fixed blade knife, there's not a whole lot that really goes into that. You don't have a mechanism you have to worry about, stuff like that. But what they did here, I think they did a great job. It comes plenty sharp. The polished finish on the blade looks great. You can see I've kind of fingerprinted it up a bit. That's one of the reasons I actually usually prefer stonewash blades, but I really don't mind the polished blade on this. I think it looks pretty good. And so on to the pros and cons for me. The biggest pro for this bad boy has to be the lightweight. I think it's really the biggest selling point on this knife for me. And it's what really makes me carry the knife as often as I do. I also think that being able to choose between the 52-100 steel and the Magnacut is great. As I mentioned, I much prefer stainless steels, but I know there are plenty of people that really swear by 52-100. The 52-100 version does come with a coated blade, which helps with corrosion. So since I didn't mention that earlier, I wanted to bring that up. Also with the Magnacut Steel, you're getting great toughness, solid edge retention, and some of the best corrosion resistance you can get, short of steels like LC200N or Vanex. As far as the cons, price is probably a con at $200. I felt a lot more strongly about that being a con when I first bought the knife, but it has grown on me quite a bit since I bought it, and I don't feel as bad about what I paid. Compared to some other knives, and I'll talk about them here when I bring in some comparisons, I do think it's a little bit high still for what you get, especially considering that it comes with a paracord wrap. It doesn't come with scales from the manufacturer. The little bit of a rattle in the sheath is also a con, especially if that's going to be something that would bother you with hunting or something like that. It may not matter to you. It didn't matter to me, but again, just worth noting. Again, the fact that it comes with a paracord wrap and has very limited aftermarket scales has to be a little bit of a knock. And finally, availability. If you're not familiar with Montana Knife Company, like I mentioned, they do occasional drops of different models and things like that. So you just have to kind of catch it at the right time. So availability is probably a con too. So I'm just going to bring in some size comparisons and things like that. So first up, we have the Benchmade Hidden Canyon Hunter. So this actually has a shorter blade, but obviously I don't know if you want to call it a fatter blade. Scale area handle is pretty similar in size. Just very different designs of knives as far as the blade shape and everything. This is a very similar price range. Just for comparison, for $200, this comes in at $200 flat, I believe now. It may be a little bit more, and with that, you're getting some really nice scales and things like that. This is S30V steel, so a little bit different on the steel. Okay, next we have the Asher Lil Buddy. And this is the Wharncliffe blade. I have the drop point as well, but I wanted to give the Wharncliffe blade a little bit of love. So you can see the scale area on the Lil Buddy is a little bit longer. The blade is also a tiny bit longer, but pretty comparable size-wise in approximately the same size class, I would say. So. Next, we have the ESEE Izula. This is probably one of the more popular small knives out there. Pretty comparable in blade length. Scale area is pretty similar with the extended scales on the Izula. This makes the knife a little bit longer. Without the extended scales, we're looking at probably about that long or so. So it would actually be shorter. Just like with most of the other options, you have a little bit fatter of a blade here. And this is S35VN. So still a great steel, but different steel. Next is a twofer. I'm going to compare it to the Kizer Smolt as well as the Kizer Mini Harpoon. So as far as the blade stock, I do want to show the comparison on this with the Kizer Smolt and the Mini Speedgoat. You can tell it is much thinner blade stock there. I think the Harpoon is a little bit thinner blade stock than the Smolt, although still, yeah, you can still see, especially down there at the bottom, the Speedgoat is definitely still a lot thinner as far as the blade stock. But pretty good comparison size-wise. Again, just by design, the Speedgoat is a much smaller, much thinner knife. Definitely lighter than both of these options, but pretty comparable as far as blade length and handle area. So, almost put it in the wrong sheath. And this is, I think, one of the better comparisons as far as value and the blade and everything, because these are pretty comparable blade size. The Smith & Sons Axiom here, this is Magnacut Steel. This ran about, I want to say $10 to $20 cheaper than the Speedgoat, and this came with some very, very nice rich light scales. And so when you compare that to the Mini Speedgoat that came with paracord wrap, I had to buy the scale separate. Smith & Sons, I just feel like is overall probably a little bit better value on that. But this, holding it in my hand, this is definitely a little bit heftier than this. So if a thinner blade and or a lighter weight is a premium for you, the Speedgoat will probably come out on top there. But both are absolute great knives. I absolutely love both of them. This one I have set up for belt carry. This is probably my favorite belt carry knife. And the Speedgoat, I think, is my favorite pocket carry knife. One that this is actually runs a little bit more. This is the Schwarz Overland Sport. I ordered this with the G10 scales, and they do, occasional drops on these. I just ordered mine through their custom shop where you can just pick your scales and things like that. But you can see very similar blade length, very similar handle area. I will say it is harder to get a 4-finger grip on the Schwarz because you're kind of falling off on that little angled part there. Still a very solid grip, but you compare that to the Speedgoat, is a much more secure 4-finger grip, I would say, for sure. But both absolutely solid knives. This one ran me about $240 because I think I had a discount code from, I believe it was Nymph Knives, had a discount code with Schwarz, but it retails at $265. So just to keep that in mind. And finally, and I think the best comparison as far as a lightweight EDC knife is the waxed wing Nymph. Now, I have this one set up for belt carry with soft loops, but you can see the blade stock is very, very similar on these. Both are very thin, very slicey knives. Both of them have pretty similar scales on them. I will say, even with that, the Mini Speedgoat is definitely still noticeably a little bit lighter. This is still a very great lightweight knife. This is also Nitro V, and it cost me about half of what this did. So just to put that into perspective, and honestly, I would say if you want a Speedgoat, but the price is just a little bit too much for you, I would definitely take a look at the Waxwing Nymph, because I would almost call this like a budget version of this. Obviously, there are design differences and things like that, but Waxwing also has several different blade designs. I think they actually just released a 4th one. So just something to think about. Again, if the Speedgoat is a little bit too much for you, I would really look hard at the Waxwing Nymph. So that is the comparisons that I had. So the biggest question, would I buy this again and would I recommend it? And that is a solid yes. As I mentioned, I do think the price is a little high for what you get, considering you don't get scales with it. And having to go aftermarket for the scales, and there not being a lot of options for the scales, and those scales being imperfect, is just a little bit of a knock. But the insanely lightweight and the small footprint have made this my favorite fixed blade to pocket carry. So overpaying a little bit, in my mind, I could justify it. So what do you think? Did Montana Knife Company pull the wool over my eyes? Am I drinking the Kool-Aid? Am I a fanboy? Or is this a knife that belongs in your pocket as well? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this review, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. Also, if there are any other knives or other EDC gear that you'd like me to check out, please suggest them down in the comments. So until next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and I will see you in the next video.